to the spot. I'm Tiffany.
I'm LaWanda.
And I'm Ron.
Tiara's out this week, but today we will be covering Raising Kanan, episode 2, Reaping and Sowing, and we will be back with you in just a minute.
Louisiana where the last one burnt you, know that ain't cool. Wanna show you how I'm nothing like him, swear that's the truth. So you can't trust.
Okay, we're back and we're ready to recap episode 2 for Raising Kanan. I'm really feeling this show. I really like it. It makes me feel nostalgic. I've been watching on Instagram that 50 has been having like a really friendly competition between the shows, between Raising Kanan and Power Book 2. And there's been a lot of trash talk with the stars of both shows, like Michael Rainey Jr. plays Tariq. He was talking trash, talking about, Raising Kanan, like raising who? Like we made Kanan a pack in season 5, saying he put himself, he's talking big trash over there. So Power Book 2, y'all better come with it. And Joey Badass, who plays Unique, was like, I know somebody's gonna have an Oscar over there and saying nothing, so yeah, so it's a friendly competition. I appreciate it. I'm feeling it. Both shows are good, but who y'all got? Do y'all have a favorite between the two that putting y'all on the spot?
Raising Kanan so far.
Me too.
I'll
Me
put it
too.
out there, yeah.
Me too. No, I was gonna say the same. I like Power Book 2, but I like Raising Kanan. It's a solid cast. The acting is powerful, especially Bettina Miller. Like she's killing the game right now. And then my OG Omar Epps, like,
Okay. Okay, speaking of Bettina Miller, that is one fine piece of chocolate, okay? And for that, not just for that, but because of that, I'm going with Raising Kanan because she raises my temperature every time I see her.
oh Lord.
He's funny.
Lord. I mean, it's the nostalgia for me too. It's the 90s vibe, the wardrobe, the music, like
it's all great. It's good. But when you see a beautiful, fine black piece of chocolate on stage like that with a strong role.
Right. They're all good. Everybody has been giving solid performances. Everybody. Yeah. So I'm appreciating this show. And young Makai, who plays Kanan, is doing a good job too. All of the cast is doing a solid job. And we'll start with him because he started out the show, basically we're dealing with the aftermath of him killing Buck 20. Mm-hmm. And he's having a conversation with Raquel, and you see, she's in mama bear mode. She's trying to protect her cub, and she's trying to keep him from the streets. Well, he's acting like nothing as it has even happened. Like he's eating food and everything, and she's trying to let him know, like, dude, you in it now. Mm-hmm. Like, because he's like, well, when can I get him on the corner? When can I get on the corner? And she's like, you pull the trigger. You are in it.
He doesn't understand, and I guess which is why Rock is trying to. She's trying to educate him about the street, and he thinks he knows, but he really doesn't at this point. And so she's doing right as Mama Bear, but I think that you can't hide him. It's what it is. You can't hide it. Even being in the stash house for any length of time, even by himself in the stash house can go wrong, because it didn't look like there was a lot of protection up in there. So I don't know. I don't know what I would do if I were Rock, but you took him out, you trained him on how to use the gun, and now you just gotta hope for the best.
But I feel like him being there for a while too, him being away from the scene too long looks suspicious, because you see there was already chatter in the street
right
about what had happened, and his boy D-Wiz kind of aided in that too. He was running his mouth a little bit too, right. And we'll talk about D-Wiz a little later. But he did help in all the chitter chatter that was going on. Mm-hmm.
But, it's interesting that, he wants to be a part of the business, but, he didn't start off like, as a runner or anything like that. He started off as a hitter, he kind of just jumped into it. And so I don't know what he expects, you know what I mean? Because it becomes obvious that he really didn't know anything about the business. He knows what his mom does, what his uncles do, but he didn't know the ins and outs of it, or really all that it entails. And he kind of jumped in on the deep end.
Yeah.
I guess what he sees, in his head, I took care of a situation, and I showed you my strength. So let me out here and let me do what I got to do. But as you said, he just doesn't understand. And I think Rock made a very valid point to him in saying that, if you're going to be in the street and you're going to be a leader, you got to learn to, take orders, learn to be in line. You can't just do what you want to do because you're out there leading. You got to learn some things. You got to learn how to sit still. You got to learn how to take commands. And she's right. You can't. He's too green to be out there to be doing anything, much less watching a stash house. So
business, right? Other people may make it look easy because you see that they're finding success in it, but it's not that easy when you have to actually do the work. And there are all these moving parts. Yeah. And I can think about that even for a kid, just on the outside looking in, thinking, almost, I think in a way, kind of fantasizing about it and glorifying it, and you see what's in the streets. But to actually get in there and have to do this kind of work, I think he realizes that he's kind of in over his head.
And one of the things she even said to him, like when she was trying to make him see the seriousness of the situation at the breakfast table, she was like, Buck 20's family, like they lost someone. These people are hurt, they're angry, and they're going to be looking for somebody to handle as a result. So trying to make him see like there's consequences for these actions, for you and your friends. Like you're sitting here eating like you want to go back to school, like everything is all good. Like your life has changed forever behind this act. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it quite registered then, but we see later, and as the episode goes on, as he's, he talks to Davina and everything, which I'm talking about Davina now, because Davina was getting her, she was putting a pause on this chick in the very next scene, because apparently her name is Tiffany. Tiffany, all these Tiffany's. My namesake was wrecking Davina because she said that Buck 20 was with her the night before. While and that was Davina's man. And Davina's whole thing when she went to the office, I mean, she felt that Tiffany was disrespecting him, like, okay, he was with you, but I think it's whack for you to be speaking on this dead man, and disrespecting him like that. But anyway, she showed that she was not only cute, but she could throw her hands too. Yeah. We saw Famous hyping her up. Yeah.
Because champ.
Because the champ weighing in 110 pounds. But Jukebox said what I was thinking when they were fighting. Jukebox said, and they fighting over dead nigga. That was my thought when I first saw it. I was just like, fighting over this dude, he's dead. But for Davina, it was about respect. Mm-hmm. And so, and she made her point.
Right, and
she made her point.
Highly emotional at this point in time too. So yeah. What to do is hear somebody, talking negative about a dead man, so her, her love or whatever. But
yeah, that was her boo. She said he may have been, whatever, but he was good to her.
Right.
And D-Wiz, it was interesting because I was like, was Jukebox the only one that knew that Kanan had a thing for Davina, because D-Wiz was already plotting his move, like, oh, okay, she's single now. So he was going to try to push up on her. And Jukebox was like, wait a minute. He's been dead 2 minutes and you already talking about, pushing up on his girl.
I like Jukebox's role here. So far, she seems to be stealing my heart in a lot of ways, with her her wisdom,
Mhm.
her strength, and even her weakness, as she shows with Nicole at times. You know, she
Mhm. Mhm.
seems to have this vulnerability in her when it comes to Nicole.
I like that about her because you see how, obviously Jukebox is smart and she's strong and stuff too, but you can see that she's vulnerable. And even with Kanan, you can see that too. Like, you can see like we saw in Power how ruthless Kanan could be. But in this episode, I saw the vulnerability, I saw the innocence, because you can see the guilt, like when he saw Davina and when she was talking to him about what Bucks 20 meant to him. You can see like the guilt in his eyes and everything. I saw it. I saw how conflicted that he looked, that he took this young man's life and everything. So I was like, wow, that's not, I'm interested to see when he turns to be the ruthless Kanan that we see in Power, because this, you can see that right now he's not that. He's not that, and neither is Jukebox. Even though Jukebox is hard, Jukebox is still vulnerable.
Because they're still children. That's
Right.
the part that's often missed, that they're teenagers, they're in these environments, but at the heart of it, they're still children, they're still growing,
Right.
they're still
Right.
people who are developing.
Mhm.
And so they are put in situations where they have to wear a tough exterior, but it doesn't mean that they don't have heart. You know what I mean? That they're still not human. And I think that's what, in this environment, when you have to be tough, it's easy to forget that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, your environment trains you, and that's why I think Rock wanted him so badly to go to that new school, because
Mhm.
she wanted to get him away from all this stuff, because
Mhm.
he's still young enough to be molded into something else other than a gangster, and she knows that. But Unique had a point. No matter what you do, he could have gone to the school, become a great student, but whatever beef that rolls off between Rock and Unique, they could come after him. So he's never ever safe, for whatever reason. And a lot of times gangsters do that. They'll go after your family members before they come after you. So he said it wisely. He was in it before he was even born.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The other interesting thing in talking about them is Jukebox kind of seems to be alone.
Mhm.
Seems to be alone. She has a father, he's there, but it doesn't seem like they have a very good relationship. So it seems almost like she's nurturing and growing, kind of parenting herself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Even a father image to her. They seem to be more like
Homeboy and homegirl, not even brother and sister, but homeboy and homegirl.
Exactly. He seemed like he was more, partial, more comfortable with Kanan. Like even when they were walking home, he was like, oh, you can get a ride if you want to. It's just like it was okay for Kanan to go to that school, but when they had approached her first about that school, he was like, oh, the white people ain't gonna take you seriously and stuff. It's like he does not. Yeah, she's an afterthought. And then, it's compounded by the fact that she's exploring her sexuality. And that's what, we saw in the comments last week that people were like, oh, remember Jukebox was gay in Power. We knew that, y'all. We knew that Jukebox was gay in the previous Power series and everything. What we were talking about last week was just in that moment with Nicole, like how she was shaking and everything. It seemed like that was probably like her first time, like really coming to grips with the fact that, she was realizing her sexuality. And that's what we were commenting on yesterday. I mean, last week, not the fact that we did not know that she was gay. So I just wanted to clear that up real quick. But
it was Kanan, even in last week's show, when he asked her where was she, and she was kind of hesitant on
he was like, white girl. He knew. I mean, I think right now he's probably the only one that knows at this point about her sexuality. I don't think that she's out.
No, she's not. But she if she's not out, she sure put a big advertising sign on her back, kissing Nicole out in the street like that. I mean, and she
was on the other side of town. No. she wasn't where her people stay. She wasn't where her people stay.
Like I said, it's 6 degrees of separation. You never know who knows your friend, your friend's friend. Somebody knows somebody that knows you.
And that might be why, and that might be why it's safe for her too, because that girl is not in her community, you know?
Yeah, but look at the community she's in. You know, there's a lot to be said about, you know, relationships with the other side, particularly being the other side of the track. I think that's going to come to head at some point, you know, like going into a store, which I'm sure was probably a very posh store, and you got, you know, you got Jukebox in that store, and then Nicole. Well, you know what's going to happen eventually. They're going to come and either try to throw her out because they said they might think she was trying to steal, and it can go sideways real quick.
Or just, you know, just because they come from these, I don't even want to say different backgrounds, because she made the point to tell her, why do you assume that I can't afford it? You know, you don't know her. You don't just assume just because she's Black and she's from Queens that she doesn't have any money and that she doesn't have access to things. So if anything is going to be the demise, it's going to be that type of, I want to say, short-sightedness, maybe on, you know, them trying to bridge the gap.
Right, but she explained to her that she said that where I come from, the Upper East Side, the way we make friends is we pay for things. Yeah. So that was her. She was being short-sighted, but that was her trying to, you know, say this is what we do.
But at the same point, I think also Nicole was doing that because she thought she's being from the other side of the track because she can't afford it. So
she probably did,
and I'm sure that ran through her mind. Because that's what happens, you know, you get somebody from the wrong side of the tracks over here in this neighborhood, and everybody thinks you're a thief, a thug, or you're out for no good. And, you know, regardless of whether that's true or not, in most instances, it's not true. As with Jukebox, you know, she's just being Jukebox. She's out there with her friend and they're having a good time. So it'll be interesting how, if any attacks come from, you know, that side of the track, because the two of them are together. It'll be interesting to see that happen and how they deal with it, more important.
Well, I think it's going to be an issue once her father finds out about the sexuality, not just the fact that he's a white girl, because you see that Marvin is already, he was pushing up on sis, what's her name, Tony, at the club. The chick whose dog got fried in the microwave. And you know that she has an issue with his sister, and he's still pushing up on her. But
Marvin is
getting arrested.
He's a character.
As he's getting arrested.
Yeah, and you know,
funny.
He is funny. He's a character that I like because you kind of see two sides of Marvin. And you know, a little bit, you know, he's a little bit of a comedian, and he does keep things light. But I like what he did with white girl, Miss Tony. You know, you know, he really controlled her. You know, he's doing a good job with her. So, you know, and I think what he's really trying to do is work his way into that club to where, you know, he has a certain position in there, and he's working through her to get that, because he's doing a marvelous job with her. You know, and when he's getting arrested, she comes up and kisses him and said, "No one's ever fought for me." Done.
Well, speaking of, so looks like she might be his new boo or whatever for the time being. But what tripped me out was, you know, who else showed me something when he stepped to Symphony the way he did. Symphony stood tall.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Symphony. I was like, cool points for Symphony. I was like, get him, Rock. I was like,
and that was exactly what he needed to say. You know, you say you're gonna mess me up. No, you're not.
He was like, no. Then he said that's not gonna happen. No, and so he was like, okay, I was just testing you. Right. This brother's cool. And then when he let it known his intentions and stuff, so I was like, okay, Symphony, I heard that. I'm like, all right, Rock, get at him.
And she did.
And she did.
And Mark respected that too. He respected. He respected Symphony coming back at him like that. You know?
Yeah, he wasn't no punk. I was like, oh.
Yeah, so I can see my sister with you, because you ain't no punk.
Right. Yeah, he thought he was just a pretty boy.
Yeah, just thought he looked. Yeah, you know.
Yeah, he thought he was just a pretty boy, but he stepped up. I'm like, all right. So we know that Rock, even though she thought that the situation was deaded, that Unique supposedly had deaded the bounty on Kanan. It was a lot of chatter in the street and everything. And as we learned, when she met with Unique at the cemetery, he let her know, like, I deaded the bounty, but the streets need a body. So I was like, when he said that, I was like, uh-oh. I thought it was foreshadowing. I had a feeling about who was going to be the body.
Honestly,
Yeah.
But
Especially when she pulled up on the children.
yes, so they pulled up on the kids because, well, back up. Lulu and Rock and Marvin had breakfast at the diner, and they were talking about business ventures. And Marvin had some ideas about, selling in the back of the club, this, that, and the other and stuff. And Lulu had a better idea. I like how Lulu is like really laid back and he's smart too. Like he lays in the cut. And he said, I know this couple who has this bodega. This might be an opportunity and everything. So Rock took him up on that. So on the way to the bodega, they encountered the kids, Famous, D-Wiz. And I like Rock because I just like how shrewd she is. Like she quickly assesses any situation and everything. And so the conversation with the kids and she and Lulu, she found out from D-Wiz that his brother is out state, he's in and out and stuff. So she, quickly deduced from that's how they got access to the guns. He got a brother who is in and out of jail, and he got access to heat. So she quickly assesses that. Lulu was still trying to.
Do you think in her assessment it was a little vengeful too, because she realized that had D-Wiz not, or his brother
giving her the
perhaps Kanan wouldn't have been in the situation that
I think it was all of the above. My son and I had the same conversation because it was I think it was a combination of things. Unique said the streets need a body. She need to get the heat off Kanan, her son. And this dude also, he had access to the heat. Like while Famous, like I made this point to my son, I was like, well, Famous was hyping it up too. He was like, them niggas on the corner, like he put the battery in Kanan's back too. However, he did not have the heat. Right. D-Wiz was the one who said, well, my brother got the heat at the crib and we can do this. So he actually put the guns in their hands and gave them the ammo to do what they did. So I think when she heard that, and plus, I'm sure she heard all the chatter that D-Wiz was running his mouth too. Mm-hmm. And so that situation, I think he ended up being a liability because he was running his mouth too. And we saw that when they were in the cafeteria at school. Kanan was like, you can see he was uncomfortable being eyed as the shooter. Like he was, when they were looking at him, he was not comfortable with people suspecting that. D-Wiz was wearing it like a badge of honor. Like, yeah, I dropped that nigga. And Kanan said, look, you don't need to keep saying that stuff out loud. Like, shut up. So if he's doing that openly in the cafeteria, who else was he talking to?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He probably was the one that was responsible for a lot of that chatter. Yeah. So, but what was funny was that Lulu was asking about Jessica, Famous sister, and Famous was giving him every reason in the book. He was like, oh, we don't have cereal. She's in school, and it was getting to the point that Rock was like this to Lulu, like just stop. Like she peaked game, like this nigga don't want you to talk to his sister, don't want you to ask about him, like just stop.
It's just funny how Famous wants to roll and be in that situation with Kanan, D-Wiz, and the family, but you want the buck to stop with your sister. And
My son said the same thing. He was like, listen, your son, you want to hang with them, so your sister, because I was like, but you wouldn't. Think about this. Last week, he and his sister were there, and this is their life. They got shot at while they outside the diner. And this is what he's like, my sister's going to school. Yeah. Like, I may want to roll with them, but I don't want my sister around this. And that's, but it's true what you're saying, though, Ron. Like, I guess you can't have it both ways. Like, you want to roll with them, but you don't want your sister to be involved with.
I mean, I don't really see the contradiction in that, because he's a brother. He wants to protect his sister. And
this is what I said to my son. I was like, any brother, any sibling would say that. Like, no, I don't want you. Like, you're in school, you're a good girl. This dude is getting shot at. I don't want you to date him. So I understand that logic. I get it.
I get the logic or the illogic of it, because if you don't want your sister involved, don't you be involved? Because, if you're going to be in on it, that just brings all of it closer to your family. And so, I don't understand why they don't get it. They don't get at the fact that if you're going to be involved in any kind of way, then you're bringing that same little heat. If ever it pops off, you're bringing it to your own household. So this is my point. If you're going to be involved with it, your sister's a grown woman. And the fact that she was shot at, if she still wants to hang with Lulu, that's on her. Because most people, you start shooting bullets over their head, they don't want no parts of it.
That's a wrap. It's a wrap. They're like, okay, well, I see what kind of time you on. So I don't want to be part of that.
Goodbye. I'm done.
Yeah.
So if she wants to be a part of that, then that's on her. I got you, little brother. If you want to, trying to protect your sister, you can do that in a couple ways. Don't be around it yourself, because that heat that may fall on you can also fall on your family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's true. Well, so we see that they pull up to this bodega so they can make this business deal. And we see the wife got a black eye. So we already know husband is a trip, because Rock and Lulu, they peak game, see that she, and you can tell the way you can tell he was disrespectful too, because the way he tried to dismiss Rock and talk business to Lulu. And I like the way Lulu redirected him and was like, no, she's the one in charge.
What are you talking to me for? She's the one.
Yeah, he was like, she's the one in charge, but he automatically assumed, and just going back to what I was saying last week about what Unique was saying about Broad being in that business, like she's the disadvantages of folks underestimating her and and being disrespectful, not respecting her position because she is a woman.
Well, you can tell that guy was a trip by the way he spoke to his wife.
Yeah.
That guy, but also she don't talk business. We don't,
Well, she had the shiner too. She had the black eyes, so we already knew what time it was with him.
He's 100% correct, and she doesn't speak. I mean, she doesn't talk business, but she got that shiner, and we know what kind of business you're about. And I'm gonna tell you right now, he ain't long for this world, because I'm gonna tell you. Rock's gonna take him out, and the reason I say that is because he doesn't seem like he understands who he's dealing with, number one. And number two, the mere fact that you were talking about asking for a percentage, and they just wanted to use a little bit of your store to do X, Y, and Z, and he so candidly goes, okay, no problem. And see, what I think is he's gonna steal, he's gonna do something stupid. But he ain't long for this world, mark my word.
I'm with you. Nah, because they already peak game about dude. And she had already said to him when she gave him her terms for working within the bodega, she said, we good either way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he came around and he accepted terms, but that was a wrap. So we know that Marvin was throwing a party. Which was pretty funny at the club with the white girl, like he and the white girl playing this party. Tony, that's her name. And it was hilarious how he was interacting with the folks in the line. And so that was a trip to me.
Well, I like that. He was kind of taking control of the situation. Handling the line, and then he's got some some brothers to come up and say, I hear you looking for some heat and, you know, some
soldiers. Mm-hmm.
And he, you know, kind of entertains the thought, but then they think they're going to get in because, you know, they cool now. Sit back and stay on this line and do what everybody else is doing. You know, you'll get in at when it's time for you to get in. So that showed muscle in terms as well, because like I said in the beginning, Marvin has a dual role in this episode. He's funny at the same time, but you can see where his, you know, he does take control and give up that muscle when he has to.
Do you also see the seeds of some jealousies there, that he looks at the relationship between Rock and Lulu and how they seem to be a little closer? They seem to be handling business without his input. It's like they have their own little secret language between each other in the way that they make decisions. And so it's almost like you can see little seeds are being planted there too, with maybe his discontent or dissatisfaction with the way things are going.
And I was going to say that you're absolutely right, because even going back to when Rock makes the decision, you know, she tells Lulu that the night of the party might be the night to get his Reggie Jackson on. Like that, they're talking in code right in front of Marvin. Mm-hmm. They don't loop him in. And I think that's because, you know, last week they alluded to the fact that apparently, I think he was in charge at one point. Marvin is the oldest, Lulu's the baby, and Rock is the middle. And I think he did something that screwed up the business. So they don't trust his instincts, his business intellect and everything. And so they, you know, they are sidestepping him. And that's why they he's feeling away. And because he was asking at the table when he was just like, well, Reggie Jackson, what's Reggie Jackson got to do with my club? And they never clued him in. And they made a decision that Lulu, like Rock talked to Kanan and said, you know, why don't you invite D-Wiz over to watch New Jack City? And Kanan was like, okay, cool. You know, Kanan thinking this is gonna be a movie night. And all the time she's planning her liaison with Symphony. She had a date. She had Lulu planning to take D-Wiz out, and D-Wiz on the way to the house, Lulu scoops him up. You know, stops him on the way, and I was like, man, you know, that's when you know, like D-Wiz is a kid, like as Awanda said, because I was just like, you know, I think somebody else, you know, I just think that the spidey senses would have been tingling, like, you know, like we supposed to watch this movie. He comes and he stops and he's like, oh, we're going to a party. Kanan's gonna be there. I think anybody else would have been suspicious.
I think he was, but he ignored it.
Well, I look at it this way. Would you, other than have that conversation at the table, and I had to admit, I had to stop a minute when he said do this when Rock said, you know, go out and do this Reggie Jackson. I had to stop a minute and go, okay, do a little adding and subtracting in my mind. Okay, Reggie Jackson, baseball. Hitter. Oh, hit. Got you. Okay, I see correlation now. But as a kid, and D-Wiz being a good friend with Kanan, you couldn't see coming.
He couldn't foresee that they were going to do that to him. Like, you know, he was surprised up until the moment when he pulled the gun on him.
I think he was more surprised when Lulu pulled up on him. I think he was more confused, let alone spidey senses. He's, you know, thinking, well, what, did he decide to have a party or go to this party instead of play the game? You know, so I can understand him getting in the car with not having any idea of what may happen to him, you know, because he didn't know that conversation that they had.
No, I mean, he didn't, but I just was like, Jukebox, when she got off the bus and she saw him get in the car, it seemed like Jukebox knew what time it was right away. Jukebox was like,
yeah, she knew.
Yeah. The uncle picked you up. He's never picked you up before.
Yeah,
right.
But he doesn't know the street rules.
But I'm saying, like, maybe wouldn't Kanan call him back and say, you know, bro, change of plans. You know, we were gonna watch New Jack City, but now we going to a party. Uncle Lulu gonna pick you up, blah, blah. That didn't happen. He was on his way. I mean, I know they probably didn't have cell phones back then. They were kids, beepers, whatever, but the plan was this, and it changed. So I just was like, okay. And then it was the night of the party, and he said he was gonna give him the night of his life, which I was like, oh boy. I was like, okay, he gonna make sure he has a grand old time before it's lights out.
Yeah, but your life about to end. This is gonna be the best night. This is gonna be the best night ever.
This is gonna be the best night ever. Yeah. So when he took him to the club,
that was his first and last meal.
Yeah, it was. When he took him to the club and everything, and you could tell that Lulu was really uncomfortable with this, because this is a kid, and not only just a kid, this is your nephew's boy and stuff. So you can tell that Lulu was uncomfortable with the assignment, you know.
Want to do that? I mean,
no. And she said that. She said before, she was like, I know we don't want to do it, but it has to be done. And you know, in Rock's mind, she's protecting Kanan too, because they wanted a body. And that way she knew that once they took him out, that the streets are gonna say, oh, well, he was the shooter and he got. And she wanted to take the heat off of Kanan. So so
it'll be interesting to find out if that body was enough. You know, I
don't think it's gonna be enough. No, because I think the guy, I think Unique is playing chess.
Yeah, I do too.
I think Unique is like, you know, just like how Kanan was with the hitters and power and stuff. He playing chess. He's saying one thing to Rock, but behind the scenes he's doing stuff. And then we had Detective Howard, who had the conversation with him in the cut, saying, "But you the king, like you the one." So I was just like,
like you know, they're undermining Rock, basically, right?
Yeah. So that's what So I had thought that the Omar's character, I was like, okay, is Omar the cop that's gonna be like Greg, the gung-ho cop trying to take them down? But now I'm like, oh, so he a dirty cop?
I think he walks a fine line. I think he plays both sides.
If he's not dirty, like. I think he likes to have a certain bit of control in the street. And what it sounded like to me is he was setting up or trying to put in Unique's head that there can only be one king and my money is on you. That seems to me to say he's expecting King to quietly take out Rock and crew.
Because I think we'll find out what his role was in Post getting killed, because it seems like it was something there.
So Unique?
Unique and Detective Howard.
Okay.
Just because of that conversation, that there's a backstory to that, right? Mm-hmm. So it seems like we'll find out about that, but it also, to your point, Ron, is that maybe he says crime exists, but we need to control it because we can't have dead children in the streets, right? So we can't have the war between you two. If it's going to exist, it needs to be one person who can keep everything under control. Mm-hmm. And whatever the past history is with Rock is why he would be siding with Unique.
Okay. And that makes sense, because I was just like, when he had that conversation, I was like, and I said, I definitely understand the piece of about keeping the peace and not wanting any more bodies to drop. And he said to the rookie cop about, I think in a preview the next week, saying like, you got to know every criminal, you got to know who the players are. So I think that's him just keeping his ear to the ground and knowing the major players and stuff too. But the way he was talking at the same time, I was just like, is he dirty too? You know, is he a jukebox? Because you know that jukebox was a dirty cop, you know, in Power. So it did make me wonder about
if he's not dirty now, he will be soon. Because you can't be that close to that type of situation, being that close to Unique in the terms of thinking that you can just tell him what you want him to know. Because how else would you expect Unique to take that message you sent? So you're telling him to do something and do it quietly so that you can be in control. And then once he's in control, he's got to expect something from Unique, and it can't be just keeping the streets clean, because there's always going to be bodies falling. So, I think that if he's not setting himself up to be dirty, he is dirty.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's gonna. We gotta see.
Yeah, yeah.
He definitely plays both sides. So.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to learn his backstory, you know, and see what side of this he's actually on. But you know, going back to the situation with D-Wiz and at the club with Lulu, we saw outside everything escalated and they started fighting. Cops came, all of that. Marvin was in the mix, and D-Wiz was out there. He saw that, you know, this was after he had his little liaison because Lulu got him some butt. he lived up to to his promise for it to be the best night ever. And I was telling my son, I was like, the faces he was making, I was like, he looked like Pookie from New Jack City when he was in there with the sex scene. But so after that, they go into the alley to pee, and I was just like, oh my gosh. I just knew it. I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. And you can tell that Lulu struggled with this. Like, you know, you can see that his eyes are welling up and stuff, that he really didn't want to kill this kid. And D-Wiz looked confused. And he took him out. And then he called Rock. While Rock was with Symphony in his bed, I was like, she is a G. She is so cool. She answered the phone and he was like, yeah, he was like, home run. And she says, and she tells Symphony, oh yeah, I was making sure that Kanan was home. And you know, and the way she set it up was so sweet because Kanan can really, you know, she gave him plausible deniability because he was home. He was waiting for his friend to come to watch the movie. And when he wasn't there at a certain time, Kanan was calling like, hey, calling his house. Like, you know, I'm looking for D-Wiz. What was his name? Derek, his real name or something. I'm looking for him. He hasn't come yet. So gave himself an alibi. Like he, you know, so the way they did that was smooth. It was sad. But I was like, I saw it coming. I was wondering, I was like, I wonder if they would do the same to Famous. You know, like I wonder if they're gonna try to eliminate everybody who was a part, or I think mainly just D-Wiz for the reasons that you said, Ron, too, because he was the one that actually provided the guns, because he was being a chatty patty and stuff too about the situation as well. So
I just think it was easier to make the decision as to which kid was going to die because of all that. But I think that it's like a domino effect, though. When you start to kill one in that group, then there's another that falls and another that falls. So, you know, and you said it earlier, Unique has his hand in all this, and he's really playing chess. He's making these moves with the understanding that he wants Rock out the situation, the whole thing. He's got the territory, but he also knows that she can't be just lingering around because this is going to be a problem. And, you know, the fact that he said he can't control what Buck 20's friends or people might do, I think he could control that.
No, he don't want to control it.
He doesn't want to control it because, you know, it's really just a means to an end that he's deriving to. And Detective Howard helped him mentally to figure out how to get to that point.
I think it's going to be interesting when Kanan finds out that his uncle killed his friend. I mean, we're starting to see the seeds of what turned him into this ruthless adult, and that's going to mess with you when you figure out that your mother and your uncle plotted that.
But this is going to be my prediction. I feel like the fact that Jukebox was there, it was important because I think Jukebox is going to be the one to say to Kanan, like when Kanan finds out that his friend is dead, she's going to say, I saw Uncle Lou pick him up. And you know, like, why would he pick him up? Kanan knew that he was on the way to the house. Like, if Uncle Lou picked him up, why didn't he bring him here? So it may be a situation. Son and I were talking about this, that Rock says, like, hey, we had to do what we had to do. Yeah. He was running his mouth. This is your first lesson. This is your next lesson. Right. He's running his mouth. He gave you the gun. He started this. The streets need a body. It is. And she's so straight up. I can see her doing it, saying, like, we had to do this.
She would do actually best by telling him, you know, this is all of what you wanted to get into. See, right. It's all about selling drugs and having money in your pocket. There's a darker, deeper side to it. And this is it. You're going to be making decisions that can hurt you, that can hurt your heart, that you may not ever want to, you may never thought that you'd be making, but this is it. The streets needed a body. That's rule number 2 that you need to understand when things like this fall. And we had to make a choice. Which body is it going to be? So we did the math. D-Wiz number came up, and I think that Kanan needs to understand that.
And the other part of that is they, you know, like in some of the voiceovers, when you hear adult Kanan 50 talking, they talk a lot about the unintended consequences. You do something and right. It comes back to you, but you don't always know how it's gonna come back to you, but it makes this circle. So Kanan and D-Wiz went out there, pulled his gun on Buck 20. It came back on D-Wiz. And you know, karma, it just came back. Really bad.
If Kanan never wanted to get involved with all that, Buck 20 would still be alive. D-Wiz would still be alive. But because you wanted to get in the game and you went at it the wrong way, yeah, that full circle, however messy it's going to be as it gets to you, is what it is. That's not a cleaning. Well, it is. It's a cleaning cycle, and everything in its path is going to take until it gets to you.
Yeah, and there's going to be a lot of consequences. He's going to have a lot of losses just from that one action of Coney.
And that's what I was going to say. I think that when she does have that conversation with him and say she does own up to the fact that she was behind D-Wiz's demise. She's gonna flip. She's gonna say it's on you. Like, this is on you. Yeah. You know, because you jumped out there and you and D-Wiz took this action, and these are the consequences.
Yeah. The streets needed a body. Did you want it to be yours or his?
Is it? Yep. It was yours or his. And as a mother, I made that call. You know, that it was not gonna be mine. But you know, Buck 20's family, you know, they don't have any resolve. Look, I guess in her mind, that's how she was able to settle it too, is that now Buck's 20's family can have some resolution, thinking that they have the shooter. But that's also really cold too, because when she saw D-Wiz early with Famous, she asked her about his mother. She said, "How's your mother?" So I was like, wow. I was like, that made me even more cold to me, because I was like, you saw this kid, you asked him about his mother, and yet you made the decision to take him out and take another mother's child away from him.
And ironic, how ironic that is. I mean, you feel as strongly as you do about your child and saving your own child's life, but you don't see the value or the same, you know, with another mother who now has lost her son, as you very well could be losing yours. And there just doesn't seem to be a connect with you. You know, well, I understand personally.
Her rationale is y'all both went out there and pulled that trigger as consequences. So she's probably looking at it like he's just as culpable as you, but I'm in a position to do something about it. I mean, it definitely is not right. Trust me, it's not right. I'm not on her side, but I follow her line of thinking. I'm in a position to do something to protect my son. And this is the way, it's a tough call, but this is the way I have to do it.
But
she's just following the rules of the street.
And I would question if, in fact, that is the correct. I mean, because sometimes, hear me out. Sometimes you can just let things die. and leave everything alone. And then there are times when this could be a catalyst to other people dying too, because now that he's gone, Buck 20's family might say, yeah, but there were 2 other people involved in Buck's death, and we need to get them too. Now we got one, now we got to get the other.
But see, they don't know that. That was his rumors. They knew that it was a crew, but they don't know.
What they heard in the rumor is that someone
That Kanan's crew.
Kanan's crew. And there right there is the operative word there, his crew. Are you just satisfied with that one body, or do you want his?
I don't think it's going to be enough. It's not going to be enough. And there's going to be consequences. But going back to what you guys were saying about the choice that she made, she was making the choice to protect her child over another child. It made me think about Tasha. With Tasha in the Keisha situation. When Tasha killed Keisha, she went over there, she was trying to protect Tariq. And in that moment, she wasn't thinking that her best friend Keisha had cash, that she was going to be without a mother. Because Keisha said, Tasha, what about cash? She said, I'm sorry, and took her out. She made the choice to defend her child, like my child over your child. And in this situation with Rock, she did the same thing. My child over D-Wiz's mother's child. Like, I'm protecting my child. And the streets need a body.
And I don't think, and the other reason they're not going to be satisfied is because at the end of the day, they want Rock. They want to take her off.
Right.
So it's not going to be enough. They're just going to use it as a convenient excuse to make sure they take her down.
Right.
With Unique is, he has a mission, and his mission is to get rid of Rock. And he's going to do it the way he's going to do it in this subtle way, so that it looks like it's street justice and that he didn't have anything to do with it. I got my boys under control, but street justice required more bodies.
Yeah, I don't trust him at all. He coming for her crown. He's coming for her crown. And I think there's gonna be, like you guys said, there's discord within their family. The situation with Marvin, like he's gonna feel disrespected because they're making calls behind his back and they're supposed to be moving as a unit. And I saw in the previews for next week that Kanan was having a sidebar with Marvin and was just saying, we can help each other. Show me how to do this. So I think Marvin is going to be, like, as much as Rock is trying to keep Kanan out the game, like she's trying to keep him in a safe house and keep him off the street, I think Marvin is going to be giving him some private lessons. So it's going to continue to be discord because he feels isolated. Kanan is going to be is going to be coming to him for help. And I think he is going to be the one that's going to tutor Kanan and help, develop that ruthless side that we know of Kanan.
I'd like to see what happens with Lulu after this killing, because, for him to be as choked up as he was over what he had to do, it's going to be real interesting how he relates with Rock after having to follow that command, that she laid on her, because that's a heavy burden for, because Lulu doesn't seem to be that type of kind of guy.
And he's the baby out of all of them. He's the little brother.
But I think it's also rational and strategic. It's more about what his relationship is going to be with Kanan and how Kanan will view him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he and Rock, they have
they solid.
They're solid. They kind of see business the same way. I think it was a hard call. I don't think it was something he relished doing, but I don't think he'll hold it against her.
No, I don't think so either.
I don't think he'll hold it against her, but it will be just, to me, interesting to see what plays out, because, that's not something, he not only took out a kid, he took out someone that he probably had known since he was a baby.
Oh yeah, he is close to the family. He's probably been over for dinner. Like this was, it looked like to be Kanan's day one, like part of his,
Right.
He said the dude was solid. He said the dude was solid. Yeah.
He was solid. Yeah. So I mean, he probably was like a little, a little brother or whatever. And so yeah, I think it's probably gonna mess with him and stuff. And I think as long as he, like, say if he does get to date the young lady Jessica. Jessica seems to be straight laced and everything, Angela type, And if he gets involved with someone like her and he's living this lifestyle, there's always going to be a conflict there between what he's doing and what she's doing. And same with Rock. There's going to be conflict between her and Symphony too, if he really is a straight up dude and not a fed. Because we said that last week that we think that he might be a fed. But if he is not a fed and he just really is a straight up dude just trying to be in a relationship with her, there's going to be conflict there with her being in the streets and him just being a straight laced dude.
Come to think
there's always a game of somebody trying to get out, right? Of somebody trying to come up and them having opportunities to see a better way and another way to do it. Because the interesting thing about him being an urban planner is, people in her line of work always have this additional money that they need to do something with to make it legal. So I thought about that in them even pairing them together, whether or not it would even get that far, for them to start having those kind of discussions.
It would certainly be considered a relationship of convenience, particularly for Rock. But getting back to what you said, Tiffany, about him being a fed, going back to that comment that he made with Marvin, when Marvin kind of said, "I'm gonna F you up."
Mm-hmm.
He said what he said with a sense of authority, like, "No, you can't F me up because you don't know who I am." It was a sense of authority that most people wouldn't ordinarily have. I'm
gonna F you up, and he said, I bet you won't, or I bet you don't.
He said, I bet you won't. He did. He said, I know, I bet you won't. He said it like he meant it too.
Not that he just meant it, but like, when I bet you won't, it's because you can't. There's some stuff behind me that you just don't know about. And that's what when you said that.
And he could be, but I took it as like, you don't want this smoke. I took it. You don't want
but he
smoke.
But
I ain't no pump.
Talking to too. He also knew who he was talking to. So not to not say, you don't want this smoke is because too much smoke might be coming at you that you ain't ready. So, that's a good call. It'd be really interesting to see if it turns out that way. It would be
We'll see, because it's lining up like with all of the relationships that we see so far. There's going to be conflict, because if Kanan gets with Davina, he's always going to be guilt ridden because they killed her boyfriend. That situation, that guilt. If Lulu gets with Jessica, she's straight laced. He got the streets. And Marvin trying to date this girl, Tony, the white girl at the club. We already see Tony a cokehead. Rock has issues with her and stuff. That's a conflict right there. Symphony and Rock, because of their situations. Jukebox and Nicole, because Jukebox is still in the closet. And then, so everybody's relationships are going to be tested. There's going to be conflict there.
And Kanan pining out to Davina, and that situation is dead.
Yeah. That's why I said the guilt is always going to be there, because you then took out the girl's boyfriend.
Yeah, let me give Kanan some advice. Stay away from Davina, because I'm gonna tell you, she's not the one to play with. And when she finds out that you might have had something to do with her boy, lying dead on the street, it ain't a good look. I don't know what Davina might do, because Davina might just go crazy and try to, end all of it. So if I were Kanan, she's not to be touched. I'd leave her alone. Let it walk.
He already let me know he can't stay away from her. He said that because Jukebox told him last week that maybe it's time to move on. He was like, I ain't never moving on. So yeah.
That'd be sad. That would be sad.
So I think I saw in the previews that she was asking him, tell me honestly, was D-Wiz the shooter? And that's gonna be interesting to see how he answers that question. He made like D-Wiz is gone. So he yeah.
he would
He
need
was.
a stone face, and Kanan right now doesn't appear to be having a stone face. I guess.
What did she say? Did you know he was the shooter?
Did you know? Yeah, did you know that he was the shooter?
But
Right.
I see her asking that question and Kanan pausing, you know, with an answer, and
she'll say no.
And she picking up on that pause, thinking, okay, then either you or someone else had something else to do with this shooting. And that's just,
you know, even for people like, okay, I grew up in an urban setting. I wasn't a part of a gang, but it's certain things, you know, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you ask him, do you really expect for him to say yes?
Right.
You know, like she can ask all day, but she shouldn't have an expectation that he would say yes. That was his boy.
Right.
You know, he knew he's not gonna say anything.
No. Because she was like, answer me honestly. Yeah, right.
Yeah. But she might think that he knows who else was involved. She may not think that he was.
Of course. But
I think that's what she's trying to find out.
We know that, but snitches get stitches.
Yeah.
And that's his boy. And you know, he's not going to tell. Like, I mean, think about Ghost when Angie was trying to get him to admit that he was Ghost, and he said, if I was Ghost, would I really answer that question? Like,
look,
yeah, it's a no-brainer. No,
we know that women are kryptonite for these young men, as you say all so often, Tiffany. You know, if she does it right, she might be able to get whatever she needs from him. So, you know, that would be an interesting point.
He's learning the game. He's not gonna tell her that, because, you know, for him to give her anything will also be incriminating himself. And
couldn't, but I'm not talking about him telling her. I'm saying for somebody as green as Kanan is right now, when you ask him that question, generally the
answer is, I don't know.
No, I know what I know what the answer is.
I hear what you're trying to say, but I hear what you're saying, but I think he even knows.
Oh, let me finish. What I'm simply trying to say is, if he pauses with no answer at all, and she's
there's gonna be a problem.
It's gonna be a problem. And that's what I'm trying to say. I know what the answer is. I know what he should say, and I know what he better say. But being green and this being his first killing, sometimes you kind of freeze because of the question. You're not expecting that question. And then when it comes to you, freeze up. That's what police do all the time when they get you in that, you know, get in that little room. They ask you things to cause you to delay in your answer, or to do something, or have a facial expression that would lead them to believe that you know more than what you're actually saying. And I'm believing that this could happen with Davina. And that's why I say Kanan needs to just stay away from this chick.
Oh yeah, we know that.
Franklin needed to stay away.
Huh?
Like Franklin needed to stay away.
Yeah. But he ain't gonna do it. He's not gonna do it. So
for that reason that you've always said, Tiffany, kryptonite.
Yeah, these are lessons learned.
Yes, indeed.
You know, they're trying to teach him the game. So I think that we have covered everything. But I mean, is there anything else that y'all wanna?
I wanted to bring up Jukebox with her little hustle with that merch.
Yeah, she was boosting. Yeah, and I remember that. Like, man, I tell you, when I look at Jukebox around the time and things that they were selling and stuff, I was like, I remember that. Like some of the things that what they wore in her outfits, even the way she wore her hair during the time and the outfits. I was like, oh, I used to wear my hair like that, earrings and the whole look. I like how authentic this show is with all of that.
I did enjoy that myself. I just wanted to bring it up because it was interesting. It's good, nice little.
She's quite the saleswoman.
Yes, she is.
Yes, she is. And I mean, and that's New York. I mean, I was just like, man, I could relate to that. I could relate to that. I was like, this is New York. This is the time. I remember when all of that was going on.
Oh, in New York, so, always going. I mean, you couldn't walk down, street without that, So that was a good part of storytelling about how New York is. I haven't been in a while, but even the last time I was in New York, it's still a lot of that going on,
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up because they blessed us again with her vocals.
Oh my goodness, she was killing it. Oh,
Yes.
And that was my song too, that Whitney Houston song. And it was amazing. It was interesting that while she was singing, you saw everything else going on in the background. Like, you know, what was going on with Kanan, what was happening with the fight. You know, then we see later D-Wiz getting killed and all of that and stuff. So it was just like how they put all of that together. It was trip. Like she's really talented.
Definitely.
She's really talented. But I think we've covered everything. I mean, do you guys have any predictions for next week?
My only prediction is Kanan is going to give that little stone face, and Davina's going to be asking more questions. There's going to be a whole lot more to that than just that one question asked. I feel it coming. It's not going to look pretty. And my other thought was that Lou is going to have some issues. He's going to come back and talk about what he had to do. I think he's going to have a few words for Rob.
Yeah, I wonder what's going to happen between like Kanan and Famous and the crew once they find out that D-Wiz is dead, and you know, are they going to, if they get any inkling that Lulu or that they had something to do with it, are they going to feel like they're coming after them next? So I just want to figure out what's going to happen with the relationship with that crew.
That's a good question, because I was wondering if they're going to automatically assume that it's Block 20's people. Like, are they going to make that assumption, or are they going to, you know, because I think, you know, Son and I were talking about that, and we think that that's why they left him out there, so that the message could be, he got, you know, Block 20, I needed the streets needed a body, here it is. Because, you know, my question was, you know, why didn't they take him to the chop and stuff? But he needed to be found so that message could be given. And also so his family, you know, because they knew the boy, their family could find him and give him a proper burial and all of that. So it is going to be interesting to see. Like, I don't know that they'll suspect immediately that it was Kanan's crew. I mean, that Uncle Lulu and them. I think they're going to think it's Block 20's people in revenge. But I think that Jukebox is going to be the key. That I think she's going to put Kanan on the game and say, like, hey, I saw him getting in the car with Lulu, and that may cause Kanan to approach Lulu and them and like, what happened? Did you see what happened? And then I think then family, Rock, Lulu, whatever, they're going to probably put him on the game and let him know that this is the lesson behind all of this.
And I think Detective Howard is going to approach Unique, thinking that Unique had something to do with that.
Bodies.
Yeah. So
he may even try to talk to Kanan, like, you know, like this is his boy.
Yeah.
So he may even come to Rock, like when the last time you saw him, like or he may come to Rock and say, like, you better watch yourself, because obviously they're coming after the bounty is still out there on your head. So I could see him maybe having that conversation with her again too, with the family again, with her in particular, and possibly Kanan.
But that's the other part too, right? Detective Howard has had that conversation with him, which I assume he understood no more bodies, and here's a body. And then the assumption is just gonna be somebody from Block 20 did it, one of Buck 20's friends, but they gonna know they didn't do it. You know, somebody, you know, of course, everybody may just speculate that nobody's trying to own it because nobody wants to get in trouble, but somebody's gonna be like, well, we didn't do it. So that's the other part that could come out too. So we'll just see what happens, how these chips gonna fall.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting good. I'm liking what I'm seeing from this series so far. It's really good.
It's good. I will say that.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's kind of up there with Power. I'm with
Yep, it is. Good storytelling, strong acting for sure. And like I said, nostalgia, feeling the soundtrack, feeling the, you know, the wardrobe, all of that, the whole 90s vibe. So anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. Please leave your comments down below. Let us know what you think. Yeah, let us know how you feel about the competition between Power Book 2 and Raising Kanan. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to our channel. Click the notification bell so that you can get our videos whenever it drops. And Tiara was out this week, but she'll be back with us next week. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week and talking about episode 3. I think that covered it. Thank you. Bye.
When will they learn? You gotta love what you got. Niggas want more than they earn. Picking the locks, only one way to the top. I've been enjoying my turn. When will they learn? It's all about what you flip. It ain't about what you earn. Taking the steps, ain't no shortcut to the top. I've been enjoying my turn. When they gon' learn? You gotta love what you got. Niggas want more than they earn. Picking the locks, only one way to the top. I've been enjoying my turn. When they gon' learn? It's all about what you flip. It ain't about what you earn. Taking the steps, ain't no shortcut to the top.